Meeting to order. Tonight's meeting, January 8th, Wednesday at 6 p.m. via Zoom. First of all, before we kind of go through things, well, let's go ahead and do the roll call.
Perfect. Okay. Going down the list here, we're starting with Michael.
Hello, I am here.
Perfect. Ryan.
Present.
Clarissa.
Here.
Dawn.
Present.
Kimberly.
I'm here.
Peck.
Present.
Will.
Present.
And Lori.
Yep, I'm here.
Perfect.
Excellent. Well, before we get started, I'd like to welcome our new members. Thank you for joining us this evening, and thank you for your new commitment to Parks and Recreation here in Sandy. I think you'll find it exciting, rewarding, and totally boring sometimes, which can be a good thing too. But also gratifying. It's always nice to be able to share with people how you're committed to and helping your community out. So welcome. And with that, because while our agenda is small, our topics are lengthy. Are there any changes to the agenda? Not seeing any. Public comment. Do we have any public with us tonight?
We do not currently.
Okay, well, let us know if any show up. With that, consent agenda approval of minutes. Would anybody like to make a motion?
Yeah, I read and approved the minutes as they stand.
Okay, second.
I'll second that.
All righty, all those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody?
Aye. Aye.
All right. Nobody opposed, so minutes approved. Rochelle, talk to us about our new business tonight.
Okay. Dawn, can I make a quick suggestion? Do we want to do introductions really quick and do you want to do that and mention who we are and how long we've been on the Parks Board for the new
Sure.
folk?
Why don't we do that? You
Yeah.
want to be the gatekeeper for that, Rochelle?
I would love to. I'll toss it to, why don't I toss it to Ryan Altman? If you want to just mention how long you've been on the Parks Board and who you are, and that way we can get to know the new folks too.
Hi, I'm Ryan Altman. I've been on the Parks Board as chair number 2 for the last 2 years, and I was just given the privilege of joining up for another 4 years. So I'm really excited to work with you guys and everyone on improving our parks and trying to give our input.
And then Ryan, do you want to just toss it to someone and we'll let you guys toss it till we get everybody in the group?
Sure. Clarissa.
Hi, I'm Clarissa Flores, and I'm new, so this is great. And I've lived in Sandy and Damascus Boring my whole life, so yeah, excited to be here. Oh, and I'll toss it to John.
Hello there, I'm John. I'm a staff member with the Parks and Recreation Department. I'm the Recreation and Senior Services Manager, and I've been in this role for about 2.5 years. And I will pass it to, let's go, Will.
Hey, my name is Will Toogood. Welcome, Carissa and Michael. Sandy resident since 2001. This is my second term. I have no idea what chair I am, so good for you, Ryan Altman. And yeah, I think rewarding and boring is a great statement, Don. And I will toss it to Peck.
Well, you still have one over on me because I don't know what chair I am nor how many years I've served. Is it 2 or 3? So I don't know if I officially started in 2022. Does that sound right? Yeah, so I moved here in 2021 and then immediately got recruited. But I don't think I officially started till 2022. And welcome, Michael and Clarissa.
You can pass it to me. I'll take it. Hi.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
Michael.
sorry. Yep. Thanks.
I am new, just started. Today's my first meeting. I work up at Y East Mountain Academy, formerly known as Wendell's, and I run all the facilities up there. And it pretty much is a big park, about 28 acres of a park. So it's quite a lot to handle. I'm excited to be, I actually live right next door to Cedar Park. So I'm excited for that to be completed, and it's a joy to listen to the joy that everyone else has there. Excited to work on other parks as well and share my input. And I'll pass it to Don.
Great. My name is Don Robertson. I have been, oh goodness, I think it's my 5th year with the Parks and Trails, also known as PTAB Advisory Board. I have enjoyed a long career in Parks and Rec, and this is just kind of the swan song for me. So it's been wonderful. I enjoy it very much, and I will ship it over to Kimberly.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to get this to work on my phone and it's not going well. But I'm Kimberly. I've been on the Parks and Trails Advisory Board for, this is my 2nd year. And oh, I found the button. Hi. Just leaving work, so sorry about that. I have no idea what chair I hold either. I've been a resident of Sandy for 5 years now and just moved from one part of Sandy over closer to Cedar Ridge. So I've really been enjoying that new park.
Nice.
Oh, and I'm supposed to pass to someone. Let me see who hasn't gone. Chelsea, have you gone? Okay, you're up.
I will go. Hi, everybody. I'm Chelsea. I am the executive assistant for the Parks and Recreation Department, and I have been with the department for about 2.5 years. So we're happy to have everybody here. And I will pass it to Lori.
Somehow I knew you were going to do that. I'm Lori Smallwood. I'm the City Council Advisor for the Parks Board. I have been for 6 years. With the new mayor, she may decide she wants me on another board, but for right now, this is where I'm at. So happy to be here, and welcome to the new members. And I guess, is it Rochelle that hasn't gone?
It is.
Yep.
I don't think Tiana's gone either.
Oh, well, I'll pick Tiana then, and then she can pick you.
Okay.
Hey everybody, I'm Tiana Rundell. I'm the Parks and Facilities Manager, and I've been with the city since 2020. Take it over to Rochelle.
All right. Well, hi everybody. Rochelle Anderholm Parks, the Park and Recreation Director, and welcome Clarissa and Michael. We're excited to have you on the Parks and Trails Advisory Board, and I had the pleasure of spending a little bit of time with each of them this week, and I just have to say we're really fortunate. We've got an excellent Parks and Trails Advisory Board, so I'm definitely looking forward to the next biennium, and so welcome. But all right, Don, you want me to dive into the new stuff?
Let's do it. Let's get her done.
All right. I am going to share my screen with you all, and tonight's topic is going to be review and recommendation of the updated park rules. So we're going to try to dissect this in a way that we can all talk about these park rules, share our feedback and comments, and if at any point I'm going through this presentation and you want to stop and have questions, definitely please let me know. But I broke it down into, let's see if I can make the agenda work. Why can't I? There, okay. So tonight's agenda, we're going to talk about the park rules and where the park rules currently exist. We're going to talk about why we need to update the park rules, who to date has reviewed the park rules, and then we'll break down the sections of the park rules and we'll talk about those, and then the Parks Board will provide feedback and recommendation. So first of all, Sandy's parks rules reside in Sandy Municipal Code. And I did provide a link, and then this PowerPoint will be part of our meeting minutes. So if you want to go look at the Sandy Municipal Code 1212, that's where our park rules reside. And for those folks who are familiar with this, and then just a friendly reminder, basically the city codes are what provides enforcement and rules and guides the city. So anything that's in code is essentially a law, if you will. Our process to update these rules. So the first step would be to have the Parks and Trails Advisory Board review and provide feedback. And then what will happen is these will go to the council, who then the council will review these rules and provide feedback. And then they are ultimately, because they're the policy body, they'll do the adoption of the updated rules via an ordinance. Oh, right. So why are we updating our park rules? So the last update to our park rules was in 2016, so about 9 years ago. And the update was solely focused on prohibiting tobacco products, smoking, and vaping within Sandy parks. So it wasn't a holistic look at all of our park rules. It added that park rule specifically. The other reason that we're updating our park rules is because we are officially a formal park and recreation department. And because of such, we have been monitoring the last 3 years on how are people using our parks and what's some feedback that we've received from park patrons. We received feedback from the Sandy Police Department, public reports, and research from other agencies. And again, these rules are going to reflect how the parks are currently being used. And then again, the other thing that we identified is that the way that our current park rules were written, it was difficult at times to enforce things. So it's going to seem like when we dive into these park rules, there's a lot of changes and a lot of additions. And really that was needed, one, to update our park rules based on park usage and enforceability. Who to date has reviewed our park rules? So we created a draft about 2 months ago. Again, it's taken us a while to gather input from other agencies and jurisdictions, from staff. And so really, we've been compiling a list for about 2.5, 3 years. And we took those, compiled them, created a draft, and we sent it off to the Sandy Police Department, who they reviewed it and provided their input. And then in the meantime, because this is going to go into code, we had it reviewed by our attorney. So the information you see tonight has been reviewed by those two entities and provided input. Tonight is your opportunity to take that information and review it and provide comments and eventually a recommendation to council. And I'm sure this whole group has read all 4 pages of the parks rules and taken notes, and I totally have faith in you guys that happened. All right, so what we'll do is I will share my screen with you all, and we'll look at the park rules, and we'll break this down into sections. And there's some sections that are, I have a feeling there's going to be a little bit more robust of a conversation based on just the topic at hand. So I'm going to stop sharing one screen and share another with you. Okay, so I guess thumbs up if you see the park rules. Do we see the park rules? Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay. So anything that's in black was already existing in code. Anything that's red has been added. The other thing we've done is anything that's been struck through or has a strike through for formatting, that was language that used to exist in the park code that we're proposing we remove, if that makes sense. So I tried to make it clear as far as like existing, editing, new stuff, removal. So section 1 is the authority. And basically this just establishes in the parks rules that as authorized by the Sandy Municipal Code, the City Council establishes these rules to ensure the reasonable use and enjoyment of park property, prevent damage, ensure public safety, facility orderly administration, and protect the city from unnecessary liability and expenses. This again will sit in the Sandy Municipal Code, which will make it enforceable. There's a series of definitions. And previously we had a few definitions, but we definitely did not have these many definitions. These definitions coincide any of the new rules that we've added. So if there's something that when we review this, just you feel passionately about as far as a definition we should add, please let me know. I will take real-time notes as we talk about these rules. Okay.
Hey, Rochelle.
Yeah,
Is there any way of making the font just a little bit bigger?
sure. Absolutely.
Sometimes, Don, you can push control on your keyboard and then use your mouse scroll if you have it, and that'll make your screen bigger. It works on another program.
Oh, you're muted, Don.
Heck, that's
Did you-
amazing. You
I
just
said
taught
it
me
does,
something
it
very
works fine.
valuable.
Do you guys want me, is this good? Do you want me to make the font larger? Or is this good for?
Did that work? Okay, it works on Teams, but this is Zoom, so I wasn't sure if it worked.
Yeah, it worked for me.
Okay, cool.
Good suggestion. Okay, so skipping over the definitions, let's dive into really probably the meat of this conversation, right? We're going to be talking about the general park rules. And I am absolutely open to suggestions on the best way to solicit your input. But what I was going to do is very high level, read to you each of the rules. There are 28 of them in the general park rules. If we have, if you'd like me to stop where we can discuss this more, if you have questions, I'm happy to do so. Unless there's a major desire for me not to do it this way, I will keep it pretty high level. And if the group wants to raise a hand or just interrupt if we want to talk about this rule a little bit further. Does that sound like a good approach to you all? Good. Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. I'll try not to be too boring. So the first rule, protection of park property. So anything that's in the black font, again, was existing in our previous park rules. Anything in red is new. And without, we can take a second and read this. Pretty basic, but we did add some things in here that we've noticed throughout the years that are very cumbersome for the parks folks to clean up. Things that might, even though well-intended, last longer than we want, like sidewalk chalk, for example. So we've added and made this rule with a little bit more teeth to it. So if people use our park property, we talk about they can't remove, destroy, break, injure, manipulate, or deface any of the structures. So we've added some of that information in there. Does anybody want to talk about this rule more in depth?
Not at this time.
All right, rule number 2. So again, the black font was part of our previous rules, and we made a title, use of firearms and explosives, and we added the red font. So it is prohibited for a person to discharge fireworks, firecrackers, or explosives of any kind in park property unless authorized to do so by the director. No person shall have in their possession any loaded firearm in any public park in the city except persons specifically authorized by ORS 166.173, section 2. So you'll see here what we did is we pointed to the Oregon revised statutes in this rule. So again, we added a little bit more meat to this rule. Anybody has any questions, wants to talk about it?
We have a big problem with torpedoes in Sandy. Just curious.
Does it say it doesn't.
I'm just being a smart. I'm being a smart.
Oh, I was like, it does say a torpedo.
And it's in black, so it's been there.
Would it be pertinent to add like archery to that? Because I know that's kind of a big thing in Sandy, and I'm not sure if that happens, but I could definitely see that happening.
Yeah, I will add that as a comment. I would imagine, Kimberly, it's really easy to add that, and then we'll just send this comment back to the attorney. That's the other disclaimer I have for this group is I will definitely take notes. What gets passed through the attorney or not, we can hope. But that's a great comment. So I will add that. Any other?
Well, just to comment, follow up on what Will was saying, as I was reading this through earlier, I did wonder if there were actual cases that was why some of the stuff got in here. There's a story behind some of these.
Yeah, not any stories that I'm aware of, but you're correct, Peck, in that usually rules are created based on scenarios or situations. So if anybody happens to know the history behind torpedo use, I'd be really interested in that story. So, yeah. Okay, ready for rule 3? We're good? Okay, fires. So we actually did not have a rule that was addressing fires in parks. And so we added this rule. I can read it to you, and I'll just basically, it just summarizes that we're controlling like what type of gas barbecues folks are bringing, open flames. We're talking about campfires and fires of any type. And so it's really protecting our spaces from the public coming in and having free reign on having fires and barbecues. And so any questions on that? No? Okay. Rule 4, motorized vehicles. So again, we had a little bit of, we touched the surface as far as these rules go for park rules. But again, over the last 2.5, 3 years, we definitely had some scenarios and some situations where we identified that this was something that we needed to add more to. And especially now that we're starting to build more mountain bike trails, we have base camp, we did need to address the class 1 e-bike scenario. And so you can see under C, we did add class 1 e-bikes are allowed on the jump line and pump tracks. Their use is prohibited in all other areas of Cedar Park. And then all other motorized vehicles, combustible and throttle, are prohibited inside Cedar Park and other parks except as provided herein. So again, we just addressed some of those issues we've noticed before. We've had some incidences where kids have been at the parks with throttled vehicles, and that's not the intention for parks. So, and then it is prohibited for any person to use any rolling devices such as bicycles, skateboards, scooters, inline skates, etc., in a manner that may cause potential harm to other people, pets, wildlife. And so this basically is just saying, be responsible at the facilities if you are on a scooter or these different types of devices. Whoops. Any questions, comments about non-motorized vehicles? Good? Okay. Number 6, horseback riding is prohibited in city parks unless otherwise authorized or posted. And that is an existing rule. We are removing number 7 and number 8. And you'll see later that we took number 7 and we actually expanded on that rule because dogs are wonderful. They're part of our families and they are using our parks frequently. So we spoke with Sandy Parks Department or the Sandy Police Department and talked about how we can make those rules enforceable. So you'll see later we have expanded that rule. And then number 7, alcohol and smoking. So again, rule number 9, we removed, and you can see here, we removed the old language. And then in cooperation with the attorney, we changed that language to address situations that we currently have. So the possession or consumption of alcohol beverages in parks is prohibited unless expressly authorized by a valid OLCC permit and a city issued special event permit or other approved permit. And it talks about in all other cases, 21-year-olds are the only ones that can possess and consume alcohol, and the sale of alcohol is prohibited unless specifically authorized by OLCC. And then we added the caveat that the city manager or designee may impose conditions that require financial security to ensure events are conducted safely, and that alcohol consumption or possession is strictly prohibited in Sandy River Park under all circumstances. So, and then we did keep a portion of Rule 17, which talks about the use of tobacco, smoking, and vaping. And then we changed some of that language to be more enforceable and more up to date. So anybody have any questions, comments on alcohol and smoking?
I would assume cannabis would also fall into tobacco.
That is a good question. I don't know legally how that works. So let me add a comment. Cannabis, C-A-N, how do you spell cannabis? Like that, 2 N's?
P-O-T.
Okay. Good question, Don. All right, Rule 8, littering and dumping trash in parks. Pretty straightforward. It's prohibited for any person to enter any park property with straw, dirt, chips, paper, shaving, shells, ashes, swill or garbage or other rubbish or refuse debris that is originated outside the park for the purposes of disposing any of the rubbish. Again, we've had incidences where people will bring in and dispose of some of their yard debris. And then this actually gives us the ability to enforce that and say, nope, you can't do that. So questions, comments? No? All right, feeding of animals.
Sorry, Rochelle, can you go back
Yeah.
to that? Wording just hit me funny. Where does it say we can't litter? I mean, this says, I'm just, maybe it was it before this paragraph? This says originated outside the park. I just originated outside the park, just, I mean, I understand the yard debris comment, but I mean, the whole carry in, carry out stuff, I mean, what if, I don't know. It just sounds so weird to me.
It's covered in paragraph B of that rule.
As far as the carry in, carry out stuff, well, it's not unusual.
It originated outside. I get that. I just, God, why does that hit me? It's so strange the way that's written.
I can highlight that and see.
I guess, I mean, there's nothing that I'm just trying to think of how I could produce trash inside a park. Maybe I can't. I don't know.
Because
It just sounds like
the
I'm
intent
bringing-
of this, oh, sorry.
Sorry, it seems like I'm bringing garbage in and getting rid of it. I got that covered. But if I bring in a piece of food and unwrap it and leave my
Yeah.
wrapper, that trash didn't start there. I mean, I could argue that one, but it's just written weird to me. It might just be me.
It reminds me of like the no public dumping or something like that, or I don't know.
Yeah, it's tricky because that's the intent is no public dumping, I'm assuming. But Will's right because like interpreting it to the letter means you can't bring in anything.
Mhm.
It's like pack it in, pack it out otherwise. I don't know how to make it better though, either. To your point.
Yeah, it looks like A could use some tweaking as far as like making it feel like people can bring things in as long as they dispose of that thing inside, like to meet the B section, for example, all refuge paper and rubbish should be placed in the recycling containers. So that's addressing garbage you produce while you're there. So
Maybe that's it. It's like if it's garbage that you produce while recreating in the park, you use the containers. But what you're trying to get people to not do is bring in garbage to dump.
I think that's where the exception at the end of A is that, except for normal use of park.
Oh, I see. That does clarify it a little bit. Yeah.
Is the group feeling comfortable with like, Tiana, I'm sorry, I missed that. The beginning part of A, you think explains the originated outside the park?
The beginning part explains the don't bring your garbage from home and dump it in the park. And the end of it says that normal use of recreating, please use your trash can. If you bring your picnic lunch, that's okay. If you bring your kitchen garbage, that is not okay.
How does the group feel as far as how this is written? Are we comfortable with it? Do you want me to figure out how to synthesize that thought?
I don't want to belabor it because we've got a lot to go through, but I mean, I wish A was B and B was A. You know what I mean? I wish it just said, don't frickin' litter. And B said, don't bring crap in. I'm sorry, I'm simplifying, but it reads like, don't bring crap in. I don't know, it's just kind of backwards, but that was the only thing I would just reorder, because Tatiana's right. I get what she said with B, but I just want to, I tend to read just the top line anyway. I'm kind of a shortcutter.
Okay, so perhaps reorder this and then make it just a little bit more explicitly clear.
I think that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. Number 9, feeding of animals. So pretty straightforward. It's prohibited for any person to leave, place, or distribute foodstuffs of any kind or nature in any park with the intent to feed livestock or wildlife, provided this section shall not apply to the feeding of livestock or wildlife by the Parks and Recreation Department personnel. Any thoughts? Good. So no feeding our river otter at Sandy Bluff Public. Okay. Number 10, disturbing or harming animals, birds, and fish. So again, we had some language in the parks rules about this, but we added, so it is prohibited for any person to use any weapon, stick, stone, missile, or any kind of otherwise to destroy, injure, disturb, or molest any wild or domestic animal, fowl, fish within the parks. No person shall hunt, pursue, trap, kill, or disturb any animals or its habitat in a park. Good.
Should there be language about that being except at the city's discretion in case you guys had like a beaver issue that you needed a trapper for or something?
Kimberly, that's a fantastic piece of advice, and Tiana also mentioned that, so I will add that back in there. When we're done with this, Tiana, I'll make sure I'll say you were right.
And quick question. How does that affect like fishing?
I mean, like at the Sandy River Park, for example?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. That is a fantastic question. Let me check into that because people go down to Sandy River Park and fish all the time. So we might have to put an exception in there.
Yeah, or just or in the event that down the road,
Fishing is somewhat addressed in rule number 13.
Perfect.
But it doesn't say you can do it where it's allowed. So that might be an appropriate place to make that notation.
Isn't there also a salmon run that comes up Tickle Creek? I wonder if there needs to be some verbiage about like protecting spawning grounds during kind of that time of year.
Yeah. And salmon grounds.
There are specific signage on Tickle Creek that says no fishing allowed.
I'm not really thinking about fishing. I was more thinking about like people being in the water. I mean, I think it's more of a summertime thing that people are in the water, but just like tromping through there when they're trying to spawn.
Yeah, there could be a way to say that verbiage as far as like I don't know, the salmon run nature and respect. I'm not sure how I would word that, but I can try to figure something out that would meet that intention, Kimberly, if that works. Any other thoughts on that? Okay. Amplified sound rule. So with the exception of city approved and or sponsored special events, no person shall cause or allow amplified sound to be played in a park property at the volume that can be heard more than 50 feet from its source without a permit. Additionally, amplified sound must not disrupt the enjoyment of park users by other users, even if it remains within the park boundaries. These restrictions aim to balance individual enjoyment with the collective experience of all park visitors. Any thoughts on amplified sound? And just for contrast, I did look up 50 feet and decibels and what that means as far as how loud is that music. And it's about as loud as you would play your music in your living room. So if you've ever had like, you know, a family dance party, that's really as loud as we would allow it. Okay. Engaging in criminal activity. It's prohibited for any person to engage in criminal activity while on park property. No discussion on that. Okay. Fishing, hunting, and bathing. It is prohibited for any person to fish, wade, swim, or bathe in any park property where the signs have been posted prohibiting these activities. No person shall hunt on park property. And this would be a good place to add some language about Sandy River Park or fishing where allowed.
I think you could probably just add a sentence that says something along the lines of fishing permitted per ODF&W regulations, Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Yeah, actually, that one of my question was, does the city of Sandy actually own all the way up to the water's edge, or is there some like waters of the USA kind of situation? I don't know.
I think technically with waterways, it's like from the high water line down is public. So if the river's low, there's more like nothing is owned, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, so you're saying so like right at the water's edge or even the high water mark, it's not necessarily city of Sandy property.
Yeah, that's usually like how it works. That's how,
right.
I mean, for hunting and fishing, that's how a lot of people get access. They'll just go through the middle of the water.
So you could still say, so technically this is right, even though people may not know that legality, like there is no fishing on city of Sandy.
Well, that depends like where you're standing. I mean, if you're standing, if the water's high and you're standing up on the edge, then potentially you're still
in the city.
Yeah.
I think the ODF&W regulations pretty much will summarize.
We'll cover it.
Yeah.
All right, Rule 14, hazards and nuisances. It is prohibited for any person to use a slingshot, javelin, shot put, disc, golf equipment, and archery. Oh, there's your archery, Kim. I forgot that made it in there. In or upon park property, except that any above equipment or devices may be used in areas specifically designated or provided for that particular use. It's also prohibited for any person to use equipment or engage in behavior in a park manner that may be hazardous or a nuisance to others or property. So do you guys feel that this covers that archery comment from earlier?
I think that would definitely be more than enough to cover it.
Any other thoughts on this one?
Yeah, coupled with that no torpedo thing, that really makes it strong.
I was thinking for nuisances, like with the music and stuff, is there any verbiage on like music with a lot of profanity or anything like that? Like, I don't know what that looks like, but I know some people complain about that, so I don't
know. If memory serves, because this is a long document, I do believe we addressed that later in the language, but don't let me forget that, Clarissa, if we get to the end of it and we haven't specifically said that. The other thing is there was something in here that the attorney had removed that was against free public speech. And so it might have been that language. So this is quite a bit, many versions later. So it was there and it might not be. But I do think that's important. And even if amplified sound, perhaps we can add something in there that just talks about that. But let me make a note, because I agree. Good feedback. Okay, did we talk about, no, we have Rule 15, mutilation of park notices. So it is prohibited for any person to injure, deface, or destroy any notice of the rules and regulations for the government of parks which have been posted by order or permit from the director. Good comments? Rule 16, pesticide use in park property. It is prohibited for any person to use pesticides, herbicides, or any other chemicals in or on park property except as authorized by the director. Looks good.
On that one, do we need to call out or make a note in there somewhere, that says including the community gardens?
Mhm. John, do we have a specific set of rules that govern the community gardens in instances like that?
Yes, and they go out to everyone on their registration, and we supply them like non-hazardous spray that they can use on it that is natural, like a recipe.
We've actually deemed it a non-pesticide area even for city staff, so my team doesn't even go in there and spray.
Good.
Okay, we will add that. Good thinking. Public art. It is prohibited for any person to remove, deface, or in any way injure or damage any work of art, statue, monument, memorial, tablet, or plaque, fountain, or any other ornamental structure in any park property. Looks good.
I have a question about this one. A lot of people deposit like the little painted rocks with the intent for other people to pick them up. Technically, it's art. I don't know if anything needs to be put in about that, but you know, it's not art that originated in the park. So I don't know if that would be important to delineate.
I wonder what if we put something in there unless like sanctioned by Parks and Recreation or something?
Yes, I think something along the lines of that, because people might want to go in and put in their own little memorial to Uncle Harold that passed away on that bench, and or make it temporary like you see on roadsides. So you might want to say, after that, at the end of that paragraph, as previously approved by the parks director, or words to that effect. So if I wanted to go out there and put a little monument to my dog, it doesn't become a illegal thing for you guys to pick it up.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good point you guys bring up, because I realized too, it doesn't say anything about adding your own personal art to the parks. So, like to your point, Don, feeling that the community can come in and bring something and install it themselves. So, okay. Signs, Rule 18. So except as provided for in subsection 18B and 18C, it is prohibited for any person to place any structure, sign, bulletin board, or other device of any kind, or erect any poster, pole, or attach any notices, bill, poster, sign, wire, rod, cord, or any tree, shrub, fence, railing, fountain, wall, post, vase, statue, bridge, monument, or any other structure in park property. The city manager or director by written permit may allow the erection of temporary decoration signs or advertising devices, and then park signs may be installed by the city. Tiana, your hand's up.
Sorry, not to get into the weeds on this, but back to the rocks. We've allowed it, and it seems to be a fun and enjoyed tradition by people in the community. But if we don't explicitly allow it in the rules here, I think we're excluding it right now by the rules. And we shouldn't pick and choose what we're going to force and not enforce. So do we want to make it an allowance to people can keep doing and hiding the rocks, or? 'Cause I think it kind of falls into the littering and defacing and the chalk kind of thing if we don't make a note to allow it.
I think it should be allowed from my perspective. It's something that my kids really look forward to. Even I work not close to home, but my patients often will paint rocks as like part of their therapy as they're recovering from heart surgery. There's like a specific program that goes along with it, and they hide them in local parks around this area. So I think it's something that's really important to the community. But if other people feel differently, it wouldn't offend me.
I like them too. I've seen them lots of places.
I think my grandsons have enjoyed those too.
It's a tricky one though, because the way, like, I think Kimberly, you brought that up for Rule 17, because as it stands, picking it up and moving them, which is actually what is part of the art, is prohibited.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the moving them or the removing them that is not allowed per this rule, but that's the whole point of it.
It makes sense to add art as one of our definition pieces of what it means to us. And so you can fall back to the definition of what art is and make it explicit. So a painted rock isn't art. It doesn't really fall in line with it.
I think another argument could be made though is that some person could say that that was littering. You've added something to the park that wasn't previously there and wasn't supposed to be there. There's somewhere else further down where we bring up geocaching. Maybe we make a quick little note with the geocaching that, you know, the painted rock program is authorized. And I'm getting in the weeds, but one might say, why are you going to allow painted rocks and not chalk? But when someone goes into one of our structures and covers an entire picnic area with children's chalk, that takes away from the next family that may want to come there and throw a party. And it's actually pretty time consuming to remove the chalk, whereas a small painted rock, one could argue, really doesn't affect everybody else's use of the park or asset.
Just an idea for discussion would be taking Rule 17, if that's the best place to house this, and talk about how if we talk specifically about the rocks at Tickle Creek, there's a way that we can compose this rule that talks about how that is a city sanctioned and understood activity at Tickle Creek. And then and then what we're doing is not specifically calling out a certain aspect, and it leaves it open for us to do other activities in parks that might fall under this rule. So I'm going to throw that back out for discussion. If there's a way we can write this that leaves us the freedom to sanction that activity, but also extend it to other parks if needed.
Yeah, I agree with that, Rochelle, is that I think if possible to try to make it general enough that so it's not just the rocks. Otherwise you're gonna ending up having to like add to the rule as activities come up. Or as programs come up.
Yeah. Lori, I see your hand up. Do you want to jump in?
Yeah, sorry, I'm not driving anymore, so I can navigate buttons now. Yeah, the only thing I would say is don't pigeonhole it just to Tickle Creek, because they do put those rocks all over the community. So I would assume they put them in other parks as well. So maybe just however you want to wordsmith that, so it's just not, hey, you can only do this activity in this one park. That's all my suggestion anyway.
Yeah, I kind of like John's idea of just addressing it within the definitions of what public art is or isn't. Yeah, I'm almost embarrassed to say it, but I'm a big believer in turning a blind eye or selective enforcement also.
as long as people don't start painting rocks that you cannot move.
Yeah. Yeah, all of a sudden a boulder with a class of, 2025 written on it might not be such a good thing.
Am I unmuted? Yes, okay. Michael, that's a good point. Do you think the mutilation of, do you think there's another rule that talks about that addresses that, as far as, I guess the mutilation of park notices, that wouldn't cover that, but I think defacing,
What about up near 1 or 2?
is it number 1 or 2?
Yeah, it was about digging, hacking, whatever.
Yeah. Cut, break, remove, or deface. Okay. Any building, structure, sign, bush, tree, land. Should we put a rock in here?
Absolutely. You have missile in there, you can have a rock in there.
Okay.
Nor can you hit a rock with a missile.
And rock. Okay. Is there anything else we're missing? That's a good point, though.
I also haven't heard anything about drone use. I didn't know if that fell into the nuisance category, or how we address the use of that and the protection of ourselves if something happens.
I believe that's in here, Michael. I remember writing it. Signs. Let's see. Let me just do a quick search for drone, but I believe it's in here. Whoops. Sorry. Yep. So we do address that. Let's, when we get to that, see if that's robust enough. But we do mention drones in here. So this is good. Where did we leave signs? 18. Did we already did we have any discussion around signs? Was that okay? Was that the group thought that one was good? Is that where we left off?
Yeah, I think we finished up, but we're working on number 17 there. Public art is where we left it.
Okay. Rule 18, signs. So except as provided for subsection 18B and C, it's prohibited for any person to place a structure, sign, bulletin board, there's a whole list of things that covers. And then the city manager or director may, by written permit, allow the erection of a temporary decoration sign or advertising device on occasions of public celebration, holidays, or activities of civic importance. And then park signs may be installed by the city. Good. Okay. Structures in parks. Unless authorized in writing from the director and subject to the terms of a permit if required, it is prohibited to excavate for, to erect or install, or to do any act as part of or commencement of excavation, erection, or installation for a permanent or temporary structure or facility in or on any park property. This section should not be deemed to prohibit the erection of permanent or temporary covering or shelters in places designated for such purposes, subject to park regulations applicable to such designated places. That is a very wordy and legalized rule. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have a thought. Is there any way we could lift that letter B language and apply that to painted rocks?
Regulations applicable to such designated areas. Ooh, I like that idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
just a suggestion.
Hey, Rochelle.
Mhm.
I don't know how we didn't catch it earlier, but you go from rule 19 to 22. So just a grammatical, like, numbering error.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's, then there's not so many, it doesn't look so daunting.
Yeah, exactly. Helps us out.
Thank you. Good notice. Good catch. Okay, Rule 20, trail use. It is prohibited to alter or demolish existing or build trails without written approval from the director. Horses are allowed only on designated trails where posted. Good. Number 21, trespassing. It is prohibited for any person except an authorized city employee in the performance of duties to enter an area that has been designated or posted as non-admittance. No trespassing, so pretty basic. We added a trespassing rule. Any thoughts? Good. Am I doing, this is right, this is 22 here? Right, okay. Protection and handling of park vegetation and property. It is prohibited for any person other than Parks and Recreation Department personnel to bring upon any park property or possess while therein any tree, shrub, or plant, or any newly plucked branch or leaf or tree, shrub, or plant unless authorized by the Parks and Recreation Department. Good. Okay, animals running at large. It is prohibited for any person to permit any dog, other pet, or livestock in any area of park property designated or posted by the city manager or director as a game refuge, sanctuary, or reserve, or permit such dog or other pet to molest or disturb wildlife therein of the nest, breeding place, or any such wildlife, or permit any dog or other pet to enter any other area that the city manager or director has posted as placed prohibited animals. Kimberly, do you think this kind of addresses a little bit of what we were talking about earlier too, as far as the salmon run and salmon bearing streams?
Yeah, I think it gets close to it. I mean, I don't see kids splashing around in there in the winter time, so I think keeping the dogs out should be enough.
Bill, does there need to be something in regard to service animals in there?
Let's look at rule number 26 for that. I think the intent of 25 is that they're making sure that the animals that are in a park don't disturb the breeding and wildlife. Does that sound good, Will?
Yeah, no, you're right. I just, yeah, you're right. No, it's good.
Let's dig into 26 and see if it mentions and covers what your thoughts are there. Does anybody have any other comments on 25?
Just so we don't forget, it's 23.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, I'm here for you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Go team. All right, 24, domestic animals in parks. Dogs and other domestic animals are not allowed on park property unless leashed and controlled by the owner or keeper at all times, except in areas designated by a sign as off-leash. Owners or keepers must promptly remove excrement and other solid waste deposited by animals. No grooming of pets on park property, and all dogs on park property that have a set permanent canine teeth must be licensed and currently vaccinated. The owner or keeper of the dog shall be found in violation of this rule if the dog is not wearing his collar and vaccination tag. Dogs and other domestic animals are not allowed on athletic fields unless authorized by the director, and it's prohibited for any person to allow any animal in his or her custody and control to annoy, molest, attack, or injure any other person on park property, and no person shall tie up any animals in his or her custody and control and leave such animal unattended on park property. Oops.
I think that's good.
Will, did you want to talk about the service animal portion of this? And there's other laws governing that.
No, I misread the one above. I thought it said, I didn't realize it was talking to us about breeding. So the breeding grounds and interrupting that. So no, I'm good.
Okay. 25. Parking and use of parking areas. This basically just summarizes that people can use the parking area for the speed, or I'm sorry, the park that they're at. And so it's prohibited for any person to operate a park or park a motor vehicle in any park outside a designated area of parking. So they can't drive on our properties and park. It's unlawful for a person to leave a motor vehicle parked in a parking area overnight. And then there's a speed limit. Any comments or thoughts about this one? Good. All right, you guys are doing great. Thanks for hanging in there. Prohibited camping in the city of Sandy Park. So there is already an existing municipal code that addresses this. And we added no camping in parks or trails. Camping is prohibited. And then we refer to the Sandy Municipal Code, Chapter 8.35. Okay. We're wrapping up the general rules for parks. Is there any final comments before we move into this? Is a little bit, the next few sections are a little bit more straightforward. Any comments?
The only thing I had, and I'm not sure if it's not addressed in a different section or not, would be something along the lines of prohibited to block or impede individual use of roads, paths, trails, sidewalks, parking lots, spaces, or driveways without written permission.
Oh, I like that. Okay, that was a lot. I like it. I'm gonna summarize that. So prohibited to block paths, roadways.
Yeah, paths, trails, sidewalks, parking lots, parking spaces, or driveways without written permission. So somebody can't go in there, take up 2 or 3 parking spaces for a little tailgater.
I like that. Okay. I will add that. Okay, moving on. Section 4 is our code of conduct. So basically what this is referencing is that this talks about how we want people to behave in our parks, not just rules, but it's a set of rules and values and principles that outline how people should behave while they're using the park. And so this gets into a little bit more of, it talks about disorderly conduct. And there is a Oregon revised statute that points to what is defined as considered disorderly conduct. And it talks about the use of mobile devices and cameras in restrooms and changing areas is prohibited. No person shall organize or conduct or participate in a tournament, camp, scheduled activity that requires exclusive use of the substantial portion of a park property without prior authorization from the director, and any scheduled parks and recreation activities have priority over use of park property. Sexually explicit material shall not be displayed in view of minors. Artwork displays or performances must be approved in writing by the director and stationed so as to minimize disturbances to those wishing to avoid such displays or performances. And all displays must be placed in areas designated for that purpose. It is prohibited to urinate or defecate on park property except in restrooms, and all visitors must comply with any rules or regulations specifically posted within individual parks or parks areas. Any comments or thoughts about our code of conduct?
At any point in the rules or code of conduct or the document in the future, does it, is there any verbiage around like hate speech, racism, discrimination, that kind of thing?
There was a version, and I will add it back in as a comment, but I do believe that was, and I don't, Chelsea, can you look up the attorney reviewed to see if that was one that was there was one that was unconstitutional that we had to remove. And that it might have been that language around that type of behavior. But let me specifically add that suggestion. And you said, sorry, Kimberly, you said hate speech, language, what?
Hate speech, racism, discrimination. Anything else that kind of falls under that umbrella?
Okay. All right. Yes. All right. Any other comments before we move on from code of conduct? Okay. Permits and approval for public park and open spaces. So again, any of these previous rules were incorporated, and then we added any of the red letters or words based on just the needs and different things that we've discovered over the last 3 years. And we've added things like rental request or special event application. We added a rental fee, and application shall be required unless a waiver is granted by the city manager or other designee. And then the city reserves the right at its sole discretion to approve or deny the use of public spaces, including shelters and gazebos for rentals, for any reason it deems necessary to ensure public safety compliance with park regulations or appropriate use of city park. Written permission is required to promote special events or have activities in a park. No person shall engage, sponsor, or conduct fighting, boxing, wrestling. That is a rule that was existing prior. We added commercial use in events and activities. So it is prohibited for any person to engage in any commercial activity in a park property except as approved by the director pursuant to a reservation of a park facility or vendors for city-sponsored events that provide services pursuant to a contract with the city. It is prohibited for any person to solicit, sell, or peddle any goods. Geocaching containers must be clearly labeled as official geocaching with approval from the Park and Recreation Director. Use of metal detectors in public parks is prohibited without written approval from the director or designee. And then operation of motorized models, planes, or drones is prohibited in park property without written approval from the director or designee. And then person shall be issued special event permits to that must abide by park rules, regulations, and applicable ordinances. And then the director may revoke a permit upon filing the violation of a rule. And then we talk about commercial photo shoot permits, facility reservations and use, and then film and video shoot permit. That's a lot. That was a lot to go through. Comments or thoughts? Good. I see no hands.
I'm good with that. I was concerned about the sale, lease, or rental of, parklands, such as people going down and offering for sale services such as skateboard lessons or tennis lessons or something along that line. I think you have it covered in that, is what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. I'll move on to section 6. Park hours and closure. Parks are open from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. except during special events or with prior city approval. Johns Rood Viewpoint exceptions apply for special weather events or exceptional photo opportunities subject to city discretion. Hours may be extended by special permit and written approval from the director or designee. So this one, we replaced rule 4 altogether and then added in, we kept the Johns Rood exceptions because we've got people there at a lot of different hours watching Northern Lights and taking pictures of the beautiful mountain. And so thoughts or comments on this rule? We're almost done. Okay, discretionary closures. So at any part or all of park property or athletic field may be closed due to the public by the following persons. So the fire marshal, the director, or the city manager. Any issues with that rule? Okay, lastly, and this is the one of the more important parts of these park rules is enforcement. And this is giving us the ability and the teeth to work with the Sandy Police Department, code enforcement to actually enforce these rules. So it basically summarizes how these rules would be enforced and talks about, unless otherwise indicated, park rules and offenses apply to all park property and Sandy River. Violations of any provision of this chapter is a Class A infraction, and the director or designee, as well as a peace officer, as defined by law, are vested with authority to enforce these rules and regulations, to issue a citation when authorized by law, seize any person's property, or refuse entry to a park property or program. No person shall refuse to leave a park property or program after being directed to leave. The director or designee. No person shall interfere with the Parks and Recreation Department personnel enforcing these policies and regulations. The director shall have the authority to issue special event permits or grant exceptions, and then these rules and regulations should be filed with the city recorder and available for public inspection at any time. Any thoughts on enforcement?
I think it's wonderful that it's going to be embedded in the city's municipal code, make it enforceable.
Okay, well that is the park rules as drafted and updated and revised. And if the Parks Board would like to discuss any portions of it, please let me know. Don, I don't know if you want to wrap that up, but there's some suggested motion language. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Don.
You know, I think you did a wonderful job covering it, everything. One common rule that I don't remember if it's included in there was golf. Is golf allowed within parks?
It's covered under the nuisance one with shot puts and javelins.
Okay. Do you actually want a formal motion, or do you want to wait till the final edits are done to it and have us take one last look at it and make a motion at that time?
I would be happy to bring this back to the next Parks Board meeting next month. We were hoping to bring this to the council sometime in February, but I do believe that that's been pushed back just a little bit because I know the city manager is also working on updating some rules. So having a long-winded answer, Dawn, if you would like, I can definitely incorporate these changes, have them attorney reviewed, and then talk about it next meeting to see if I've captured what this group would like to see.
I think that's probably a good idea. Otherwise, it'd be as amended, and we really technically aren't amending, we're suggesting. How does everybody else feel about that?
I'm good with that. When we go to review it, can we just do net change?
Yes, definitely Reader's Digest version.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a comment?
I agree with you, Don.
All righty then, why don't we go with that?
Excellent. We will add it to the next agenda item. And then we'll do the Reader's Digest version. Keep it short.
Yep, perfect. Okay, old business. You got anything for us, Rochelle?
No old business to discuss. That was our agenda for the night, and we'll just, done here.
Did you want to do a quick update or move along?
I can do a quick update and then the rest of the staff if we're at that point in the agenda, but just real quick to address with this group, just wanted to keep everybody updated. So on Facebook, and we've all probably heard a little bit about the pump track drainage issues. Just wanted to give this group a quick update that the team is aware of the issues, and we are working steadfast with the American Ramp Company to find a solution to address those issues. And our goal is to have that issue resolved sooner rather than later. So we're hoping within the next couple of months. But I did want to just address that with this group in case there are any questions. But I'm working on that definitely to get that to get that solved. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for this group regarding that subject.
I'm glad to hear that. I actually had somebody approach me at work and tell me that they and their partner do a lot of that kind of sport, and that was their only feedback, was like, the park's amazing, but it sucks because it floods.
Are there any other questions on that?
Is ARC solely responsible for those design elements? Or a regular landscape architect, Lango Hansen, do they have any role to play within this also?
The Lango Hansen did not. American Ramp Company was the company that designed the skate park, the pump track, and the jump line.
They've been notified and have agreed to work on those issues?
Yep, we're working on a resolution and figuring out how to come to terms with problem solving that issue. And I'm pretty confident that there'll be a resolution that will make both parties happy.
Good. I'm sure this is not a unique problem just to us. I'm sure that they probably had to deal with other things. I just didn't know if the general grading and dispersal of water would fall beyond their necessarily work envelope into more of a general area.
Yeah. American Ramp Company provides a turnkey product, and drainage is part of that turnkey product.
Excellent.
Mhm. That is my one update.
All righty. If there's no other updates, I want to congratulate you guys on a wonderful holiday season. I know the events at the park were really well received. I had the chance to visit downtown during the stocking stuffer walk, and I was shocked and impressed with how busy it was, and also how nice downtown looked, all lit up and decorated, and all the kids out, some in costumes, and just having a wonderful dry evening. One of the few we had during the holiday season. So congratulations on that.
I wanted to know, because I missed it, whether there was video of the flash mob.
There is a few videos and there's some drone footage as well. The tree lighting ceremony, our first event, was by far the largest tree lighting in attendance we've ever had. We have the tracking for attendance, and there's about 1,000 people in the plaza there. And so it was really hard to videotape or move around. So the video is funny in a way that is like, it's so crowded and we know what it was, but it's not the most amazing video footage of said flash mob, but it's cute still.
Maybe next time you can play it for us and give us a running commentary on that.
Well, I was part of the flash mob, so I can also dance simultaneously on screen. Yeah.
Very good. Something interpretive.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, any members have any questions, concerns, or statements for the good of the order? I am not seeing anything, so therefore, meeting adjourned. Everybody have a wonderful evening. We'll talk to you next month. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thanks, Don. Good night,
Thanks,
everyone.
guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.